Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints and Bucks Sunday in the Dome. Remember, Saints short week. They played Monday Night Football in Seattle, flew home, so they did not practice yesterday. They're going to practice Thursday, Friday, then a heavier day Saturday than they would normally have the day before a game. Then they'll play Sunday at 3:25 in the Dome against the Bucks. So we did get yesterday was the first injury report on Wednesday, which was sort of a faux injury report if they would have practiced, which they didn't. So today is really the first full injury report of what they did on the field or did not do. So we'll run through it. Some of it we knew was going to be the case. We're really keeping an eye on a couple of guys who didn't play this past week to see if they might be back. But Andrus Peat, of course, out with that pectoral injury. He did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. Dwayne Washington with a neck injury did not practice either day as well. So that's certainly a little concerning. As is the news about Taysom Hill, who was injured the week before the bye with that concussion, took that brutal hit in Washington, had the week off, did not play, obviously, on Monday Night Football, and now still not practicing. You are talking about a full 2 weeks plus 2.5 weeks since that hit, and Taysom Hill's still not back on the practice field. You know the drill. Generally speaking, if someone's not practicing by Friday, it's unlikely that they're going to play in the game. So not only are you concerned about it from a football standpoint because of what Taysom Hill means to this offense and the different dynamics that he brings, but also, we all saw that hit, and it was brutal. And you do worry about his health and what that could mean for him, short and long term. Because we've seen it with guys that start to have concussion issues, and it becomes a problem in their career. Let's hope that's not the issue with Taysom Hill. But again, did not practice again today. Deante Harris, the good news, that hamstring injury that he suffered against Washington, he was back, but limited. So taking it a little slowly with Deante Harris as he practiced, but on a limited basis. Peyton Turner with the calf injury also did not practice, did not play on Monday Night Football, and now did not practice again on Wednesday or on Thursday in advance of this game. So it could be another week that the Saints are without Peyton Turner. We'll know more clearly by Friday. And then Marshawn Lattimore with the hand injury, a full participant in both Wednesday. Well, they didn't practice Wednesday, but a full participant in Thursday's practice. We expect that, obviously, because he's been playing. But that's the Saints injury report. Boy, you would love to see the Saints get some of these weapons back on the offensive side, just for obvious reasons. I mean, we watched Monday Night Football. We saw how that went against Seattle, a complete dearth of receiving options for the Saints. So the big, giant question becomes, okay, what potential additions can they make? Because you're going to get Mike Thomas back, or you feel confident you're going to get Mike Thomas back at some point. I've been a guy who I've been pretty stern with this. I'm not going to fully judge Jameis or this team until I see them whole. And that means until I see them with Mike Thomas, because that's a guy that tilts the field for you. And he's a guy that commands so much attention, and he can be a safety net. And not only that, but when Mike Thomas is on the field, it means a guy like Deante Harris or Marques Callaway, instead of being the number one, becomes the number 2 or 3. What if Marques Callaway all of a sudden, if Mike Thomas and Deante Harris are out there, becomes your number 3 receiver? I like Marques Callaway against a nickelback as opposed to the number 1 lockdown corner on the outside. Let me see how that matchup goes. Make sense? So let me see how they look when they're whole. But the other thing that's worth mentioning here, and tip of the cap to John Sigler at, I guess this is the Saints page with the in the USA Today network. But he went and did the math. So good for him. He went and listed 9 potential targets that the Saints could target before Tuesday's trade deadline and what it would mean financially. So it's important to remember, and we're waiting for the Mark Ingram contract to hit here and to see what that's going to be on for the Saints salary cap. And I don't see it listed just yet here on Spotrac, but they're estimating the Saints have $874,000 in cap space right now based on their current roster. I'm just feverishly looking here to see if that does include Ingram, and I'm not seeing Ingram on here. So Mark Ingram is going to make that number even smaller. It's easy to say, hey, go out and sign this tight end or this receiver. I know yesterday a lot of people brought up Brandon Cooks. And while I certainly think Brandon Cooks would be a productive addition to this team because he's been that in his in his NFL career, he's been productive everywhere he's gone. Problem with Brandon Cooks has been sticking, be it because of locker room issues or whatever the case may be. He just hasn't stuck anywhere he's gone, from New Orleans to New England to LA. He's just been now in Houston. He's been all over the place. But Brandon Cooks, if the Saints were to trade for Cooks, the cap hit would be $1.6 million. The Saints don't have that money. Could Kai Hartley do his cap gymnastics to find that room? Probably somewhere, sure. But are you wanting to make that commitment to this player? Maybe. I can't say definitively that that's the route you'd go, especially when you're going to have to give up assets to get him. Evan Ingram is another guy who made a Pro Bowl a year ago. He's in a contract year, but his cap hit, if the Saints traded for him, would be $3.8 million. You could basically take a big red pen and X that one off your list because I don't see how the Saints create that kind of room. Now, you could argue, well, they could bring him in. They could offer him a contract extension now and then backload that deal to where he basically has a minimal cap hit this year. You could, but are you committed to paying that guy a long-term deal? I can't say that they are, especially when I'm not going to say Adam Troutman has lived up to any of the expectation this year. It's actually been one of the really big disappointments. But when you've got that guy on a third-round rookie deal, are you willing to commit the type of money into an Evan Ingram that you'd have to get him here and sign him long-term? I don't think so, especially when you're going to give up assets to get him. And the good news for the Saints is they have a bevy of picks for 2022 and 2023 drafts, and a lot because of the compensatory picks that they've been able to accumulate because some of the free agents they've lost. So no doubt that they parted ways with some of those assets to get Mark Ingram. We'll see what they are whenever it's listed. But what else are you willing to part ways with to get some of these players? Some guys that I might like even more are former first-round draft picks that just haven't made a splash with their current team that in the right situation could be a number 2 or number 3. And the two names that come to mind the most are Nikhil Harry and Brandon Ayuk. Nikhil Harry was trade spec. There was speculation this offseason about Nikhil Harry, and we even talked about the possibility of the Saints doing a deal with the Patriots for Nikhil Harry. The Saints and Patriots have done a lot of deals over the years. Of course, the deal that the Saints did with New England is how Ryan Ramczyk ended up in New Orleans when the Saints traded and came back in to round 1 and used the 32nd pick to draft Ryan Ramczyk. If the Saints traded for Nikhil Harry, who's basically got 3 catches for 47 yards on the season, and New England just doesn't use him, if you put him in the right situation with an offensive-minded coach who knows how potentially to use his skill set, I think Nikhil Harry is physically gifted enough to be a very talented receiver. You could hypothetically say, is he the same thing as a Tre'Quan Smith, a guy who's got some physical ability, but it hasn't manifested in the NFL just because he's not good enough to be an NFL receiver? Maybe, but I would trust Sean Payton's evaluation. Nikhil Harry, if you traded for him, it would cost you $914,000. That seems very doable. Brandon Ayuk was a rookie. He's in his second year in the league. He's still on a rookie contract. And if you traded for Brandon Ayuk, it would cost you $763K against the cap, and you still got that guy on a rookie contract. That seems even more appealing. One of those two guys that are on a rookie deal, that in the right change of scenery, in the right setting, with an offensive-minded coach that's affordable, that seems like a much better option than trying to break the bank for a guy who's a better player, more proven, higher upside, all that stuff, but that you're going to have to pay even more in a year from now. Listen, in this piece, they list other guys like Eric Ebron and James Washington, some less attractive names like Josh Reynolds and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Andy Isabella, and all those have smaller cap hits, but is that really any different than adding a Kenny Stills or like some people have mentioned a Willie Snead potentially. Probably not. For me, I'm looking at who has the larger, the higher ceiling. Which of these guys could you get affordably for pretty reasonable trade value, affordably against the cap, and then has the high ceiling to maybe develop in the right situation? And those are the two guys I would circle, Nikhil Harry and Brandon Ayuk as potential trade targets. I don't know if the Saints are going to make any further moves, but one thing that I've said before, I'll repeat again here, is that New Orleans is a team, is a franchise that as long as Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis are there, they are in win-now mode. The Saints are in perpetual win-now mode. They are not building for the future. They are not moving assets to gain picks to build their roster. They're not the Texans where they're yard sale and everything. They're not what Carolina was doing a year ago. Like, they are in win-now mode. It's why they went and traded for Bradley Roby. Whenever they looked like they might be without at cornerback, they went and got a guy who was a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback in Bradley Roby. They needed a running back. They went and traded future assets to get Mark Ingram, who might only be viable for a handful of games, so you get Tony Jones back, who might beat him out. But you were willing to do that because you're in win-now mode. Might the Saints go make a deal to bring in a pass catcher? Absolutely they might, because they're trying to win right now. I mean, you're at 4-2. You're a blown fourth quarter lead at home against the Giants away from being 5-1 right now. I don't particularly think this weekend against Tampa is going to go great, but it doesn't need to, because next week you got Atlanta. That's a very winnable game, and you're just keeping pace until you could be a healthy team going into the playoffs. You're getting David Onyemata back this week. You're going to get Mike Thomas back eventually. I mean, they're in win-now mode. So if they can make it work to mortgage future assets to add someone now that's going to make them better, I think they're going to do it, because that's just where their headspace is. And I actually like that. I like following and cheering for a team that's trying to win every single game now, that's not playing for the future. They're playing for the now. And this Saints team, again, they get an incomplete grade until we see what they look like when they're whole. When they get David Onyemata back this week, when they get Michael Thomas back eventually. We know they're not going to get Will Lutz back, but when they're whole, let me see what they look like. We may get a much better view of that this weekend. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.